Hey everybody, Mr. Terrar here with your e-learning lesson for April the 24th. Today we're going to continue our discussion on cooperatives. We're going to start with discussing what the 7 principles of a cooperative are. We're going to talk about a little bit about how they were first developed and some of the laws that regulate cooperatives. So let's go ahead and get started. So the development of the principles occurred in Great Britain, and the system that was used was called the Rochdale system. Okay, so in 1875, the Rochdale system was utilized in carrying out all cooperative activities, and there were 7 principles of the the Rochdale system, and we'll talk about all 7 right now. First of all, the first one was it was voluntary and had open membership. So the cooperative had to have open membership, had to be open to all people, and be willing to allow anybody to become a member with no discrimination. The second principle is that it had to have democratic member control. And basically, that meant that the members were in charge of governing the cooperative, that they got to make all of the decisions, and that they all got to vote on any issues that came up or any changes that were going to occur with the cooperative. The third was members had the right to economic participation. So members contribute equally, and that they all get to democratically control the capital of the cooperative. Basically, the members get to make the spending decisions for the cooperative, or at least have a role in making those decisions, even if it's just a vote. The fourth one is autonomy and independence. Basically, it states that the cooperative is a self-help organization and it's controlled by its members. And if the co-op raises capital from external sources, it is based upon member control. Once again, we're putting all of the power in the hands of the members. You're not letting any outside entity other than the people who have joined the cooperative to make any of the decisions for spending or any other major decisions. The fifth one is education, training, and information, meaning that the cooperative provides education and training for its members, its elected representatives, managers, and employees. Basically, training opportunities for the people involved in the cooperative. The sixth one, cooperation among cooperatives. So basically, cooperatives should work with other cooperatives together through the local, regional, national, and international levels. So you should reach out and try to work with other cooperatives to work towards common goals. And finally, cooperatives should have a concern for the community. Cooperatives should provide for the sustainable development of communities through policies and programs determined by the members. So those are the 7 principles of a cooperative. So let's talk about how the government has been involved in the development of cooperatives. In the early 1900s, our government here in the US started to pass laws that created an environment that was very, very good for cooperative development. A commission established in 1908 by President Teddy Roosevelt noted that the country lacked adequate credit for the agricultural sector. So President Roosevelt recognized back then that we needed more opportunities for farmers to borrow money so that they could improve their farms and expand their operations. And that led to the passage of the Federal Farm Loan Act of 1916, which led to the creation of the Farm Credit System. And the Farm Credit System exists to this day, and it provides loans for young farmers who are wanting to get started, or rural development loans. It provides basically funding to give loans to farmers to start or expand their agribusiness. And those are generally low interest loans that um, are a way to allow people to improve their agribusiness. The Capper-Volstead Act of 1922 was crucial for the agricultural marketing cooperatives. So places like Land O'Lakes, cooperatives that are owned by the farmers that that process, package, and sell agricultural goods under the cooperative name. Those were made possible by the Capper-Volstead Act. And the Capper-Volstead Act allowed farmers to join together and form those cooperative marketing associations. So without the Capper-Volstead Act, we wouldn't have things like, um, Land of Lakes and Prairie Farms and companies like that. And we needed that law because many antitrust laws were breaking up larger corporations during this time. In the early 1900s, one of the goals of our government was to break up these mega corporations like Standard Oil that had basically cornered the market and had a monopoly almost on the oil industry. The government said, no, we can't allow one company to control everything, so we need to break Standard Oil up into smaller companies to create competition, and it was just better for our economy. So the Sherman Antitrust Act that was so vital in breaking up all those trusts does include a clause that allows for the formation of agricultural cooperatives. As their goal with that legislation was to break up, massive corporations that were monopolies. It wasn't to break up small farm cooperatives. Cooperatives were really encouraged during the 20s and 30s because during that time, that was the time of the Great Depression, and cooperatives were a major help to farmers who were struggling financially during that time period. So this led to the Agricultural Marketing Act of 1929, which established a fund for cooperative loans. During the 1930s, the USDA recorded more than 12,000 agricultural cooperatives. Now, that was an all-time high. Since then, we've seen that number start to decline. Obviously, we've also seen the total numbers of farmers decline, so it would make sense that the number of cooperatives would decline as well. But despite the fact that we have fewer cooperatives now than we did then, the amount of business revenue and their contribution to the ag economy is bigger than ever. Cooperatives are hugely important, and most farmers deal with cooperatives on at least something, whether it's buying their seed, buying their chemical, getting their chemicals applied, getting their grain marketed, something like that. So the number of cooperatives has decreased, but the amount of business done through the cooperatives has definitely increased and is at an all-time high. So as we said, cooperatives are the result of a reaction to the inability to purchase or sell products in a competitive market. Farmers realized that by themselves, an individual farmer couldn't get the best price for a good. But if they teamed up with a group of farmers, in a given area, that would give them more bargaining power, and that they could use that power to secure better prices for their inputs and potentially secure better market prices for their goods that they're trying to sell. So cooperatives are usually developed from smaller groups to compete with larger corporations. Florida Natural Orange Juice is an example. Basically, some of the orange growers in Florida felt that they weren't receiving a fair price for their oranges, and so as a result, they formed their own cooperative to compete with other larger companies like, Tropicana, for example. So Florida Natural Orange Juice is a cooperative, which is owned by the farmers. And that cooperative owns its own facility to process those oranges, package that orange juice, and then market Florida Natural Orange Juice across America. So if you ever want to support farmers directly, there's a way to do it. Florida Natural Orange Juice. Land O'Lakes, as we said, was another one. They take raw milk and they process it into butter, cheese, yogurt, and other things. A farmer-owned cooperative. And as we said, cooperatives for electricity exist as well. We mentioned REMC. Basically, all rural areas operate their electrical grid in a cooperative fashion. So Boone County REMC is an electrical cooperative. It's technically owned by the members, the people that utilize its electrical service. So some other examples of cooperatives: Sunmade, Sunkissed, Ocean Spray, Farmland Meat, all farmer-owned agricultural cooperatives, marketing cooperatives. So there are other cooperatives that aren't necessarily tied to agriculture. If, any credit union, if you bank at a credit union, that's a form of a cooperative. Ace Hardware stores are a cooperative. Best Western Hotels, Associated Press, journalism, those are all cooperative based institutions that aren't necessarily just in agriculture. So let's talk about the different areas of operations and different types of cooperatives based on their scope. You first have a super local cooperative. That's a cooperative that operates in a single county in the United States. So a local farmers market that only serves one community, that would be a super local cooperative. Then you have your local cooperatives, which operate in two or more counties. So, at a rural electrical cooperative that maybe, say, we had an REMC that existed in Boone and Montgomery County, or Boone, Montgomery, and say Hendricks County. That would be an example of a local cooperative, an area of 2, 3, maybe 4 counties. Then we have a regional cooperative. So a regional cooperative comprises numerous counties or a region or a state or maybe even a number of states. So in Illinois, they have Farmer Service, which is FS, which is a cooperative where farmers buy a lot of their inputs, their seed, their fertilizer, livestock feed. It's actually operated by the Illinois Farm Bureau. And it covers the entire state of Illinois. That's a great example of a regional cooperative. A national cooperative serves basically either at least a major portion or most of the United States. So we talked about Florida Natural, Sun-Made Raisins, Farmland, Meat. That's a national cooperative. And then an international cooperative obviously would operate all over the world. So multinational, with headquarters in and outside of the United States. So cooperatives are formed from a need, and their ideal is to aid members in a service or marketing or purchasing materials, basically to help their members either buy goods or sell their goods. So a cooperative is a state chartered business and organized and operating as a corporation under state laws. So the cooperative attributes are that the cooperative must be controlled by a board of directors that is elected by the members. It has to be democratic. There can't be one person calling all the shots. The capital has to come from the members. You can't seek outside investors. You can't sell stock or you can't take on a partner in a cooperative. You have to raise that money from your members. So the earnings of a cooperative are called margins, and margins are allocated to the members basically on the use that they made of the cooperative during that year. So the more business that you've done with the cooperative in a given year, the more you're entitled to those margins. It's kind of like dividends from a stock. Okay. And then finally, members can routinely join or resign without disrupting ongoing operations. Members come and go all the time in a cooperative. It's pretty easy. Okay, real quick here. There's basically two types of cooperatives in terms of their governance system. We have centralized cooperatives where individuals and business entities can be members. So centralized cooperatives have one board of directors, and business can be conducted through numerous branches or stores. Then you have federated cooperatives. In a federated cooperative, each member of a cooperative basically owns a membership share, entitling it to voting rights in the affairs of the cooperative. Okay, so those are those two. And then, real quick here, a mixed cooperative is basically a cooperative that takes on the characteristics of the other two. It's partially centralized, partially federated. It's kind of a mix of both. Okay, so that is your assignment today. Your worksheet that you'll need to complete is posted on Canvas regarding cooperatives. So you'll need to complete that. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will talk to you on Monday. Thanks and have a great day and a great weekend.